The night was dark and heavy with rain. The streets of New York were filled with cars, bright lights, and rushing people. Everyone moved fast, holding umbrellas, trying to escape the storm. Nobody cared about the small figure walking slowly through the crowd. She was a girl, maybe 12 or 13 years old. Her feet were bare, red from the cold pavement. Her clothes were torn, her hair wet and tangled. She looked weak, almost lost. But her eyes were strange. They shined with a faint glow, like two small stars hidden in her face. Most people didn't notice her. Some looked, but quickly turned away. To them, she was just another poor homeless child. In a city of millions, such sights were common. But one man stopped. Michael Reed, a tall man in a black suit, stood under the bright lights of a tall building. He was the CEO of Reed Technologies, one of the biggest tech companies in the country. He was rich, powerful, and feared in the business world. But at that moment, he wasn't thinking about power or money. His eyes locked on the barefoot girl. Something about her made him pause. He didn't know why. Maybe it was her glowing eyes. Maybe it was the way her shadow moved. Because when Michael looked down, he saw the girl's shadow was not normal. Her body moved forward, but her shadow lagged behind, like it didn't belong to her. Sometimes it even stretched on its own, twisting in directions the girl did not move. Michael's breath caught in his throat. He had seen strange things in technology, in science, but never in real life. The girl stopped a few feet away from him. She looked up, her face pale, water dripping from her hair. For a second, Michael thought she was about to ask for food or money. But instead, she whispered something that made his blood run cold. "They are coming, only you can see them." Michael froze. He wanted to ask what she meant, but the girl's eyes flicked toward the dark alley behind him. Slowly, Michael turned his head. At first, he saw nothing but shadows and rain. But then, movement. Tall, thin figures stood there. Their bodies were blacker than the night, their shapes twisted like smoke. They had no faces, only glowing white slits where eyes should be. And yet, nobody else seemed to notice. People kept walking, cars kept driving, as if the creatures were invisible to everyone but him. Michael's heart pounded in his chest. He looked around, hoping someone else would react. But no one did. The shadows stepped closer, their bodies stretching unnaturally long, like rubber pulled too far. The barefoot girl grabbed his arm suddenly. Her grip was stronger than he expected for someone so small. "You saw them," she whispered urgently. "That means they will hunt you too." Michael pulled his arm back, his voice low. "What are you talking about? What are those things?" "They are watchers," the girl said. "They are not from this world. They follow me everywhere. They cannot be seen by normal eyes, but you saw them. That makes you different." The words hit him like thunder. Different. He was just a man. A businessman. A CEO. He wasn't supposed to believe in monsters or ghosts. Yet the shadows behind him moved closer, proving the girl was not lying. Michael stepped back, his eyes wide. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. He had faced ruthless investors, corrupt politicians, even death threats. But this was fear on another level. The girl's breathing grew fast. She pressed her small hands together as if in prayer. Her glowing eyes burned brighter for a moment, and the shadows stopped moving. It was like she had pushed them back without touching them. The crowd around them finally noticed her strange glow. A few people stopped, confused, but the moment passed quickly. They shook their heads and walked away, choosing to ignore what didn't fit into their world. Michael, however, couldn't ignore it. He stared at the girl, his mind racing. Who was she? Why could he see these creatures? And why did she look at him as if she had been waiting for him all along? The girl's voice softened, but her words were sharp as knives. If you leave me now, they will take you next. You saw what no one else can. That means your life is tied to mine. Michael's throat went dry. The rain poured harder, the city lights blurred in his vision. The watchers stood still in the distance, waiting like hunters waiting for prey. For the first time in years, the powerful CEO felt helpless. The world he thought he understood, business, money, logic, suddenly meant nothing. He was standing on the edge of something far bigger, far darker. The girl's bare feet splashed in a puddle as she turned to walk away. But before she did, she looked back at him one last time. Decide quickly, she said. Run from me, and they will come for you. Stay with me, and you might survive. Her words echoed in his ears as the storm raged on. Michael Reed, the man who controlled billions of dollars, now faced a choice no money could solve. Follow the barefoot girl into the unknown, or pretend none of this was real, and wait for the shadows to take him. The rain beat harder, the watchers inched closer, and Michael realized something terrifying. For the first time in his life he was not in control. Michael Reed did not sleep that night. His mind was filled with the image of the barefoot girl and the shadow creatures. The storm outside his glass penthouse window had passed, but the storm inside his head was only beginning. The girl, Emily Carter, sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket that was far too big for her. She ate quietly, like someone who had not seen real food for days. Every bite looked desperate, like it might be her last meal. Michael watched her, his jaw tight. He was a man who liked answers, not mysteries. In his world, everything could be explained: profits, losses, technology, science. But nothing about this girl fit into logic. Her glowing eyes. Her broken shadow. Her words, "They are coming." Finally, he broke the silence. "Who are you?" he asked. His voice was calm, but inside, fear burned. Emily's spoon froze in her hand. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she placed the bowl down carefully, as if the weight of her words would be heavier than the food she just ate. "I'm not supposed to exist," she said softly. Michael frowned. "What does that mean?" "They made me," Emily whispered. Her voice shook, but her eyes glowed brighter. "In a place underground. A lab. They tested children. Not all survived. I escaped." The words struck him like a hammer. Michael leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "A lab? Who tested you?" "The government," Emily replied. "And people like you. Rich men who wanted power. You gave them money. You gave them machines. You gave them everything they needed to create us." Michael's heart skipped. "That's not true," he snapped. But deep inside, he remembered. His company had signed secret contracts years ago. Huge sums of money poured into defense research projects. He never asked questions, only looked at numbers. He rubbed his forehead, trying to calm his thoughts. "If you escaped, why are they still after you?" Emily looked at him with eyes too old for her young face. "Because I didn't escape alone. I took something with me. Something they want back." Before Michael could ask what it was, Emily's body tensed. Her glowing eyes flicked toward the window. Michael followed her gaze. At first, he saw only the glittering skyline. But then his stomach dropped. On the glass of a nearby skyscraper, tall black figures climbed like insects. Their limbs bent at impossible angles, their bodies twisting in and out of sight. People on the street below walked calmly, unaware that monsters scaled the buildings above them. Michael felt cold sweat run down his back. "What are they?" he whispered. Emily's voice trembled. "They are the Watchers. They don't belong here. They came through the gate. Only people like me, and now you, can see them." Michael's pulse raced. He pressed his hand against the window, staring at the impossible creatures. Suddenly, one of them stopped climbing. Its faceless head turned. Its glowing white slits locked directly on him. Michael stumbled back. His heart thundered. For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. He wasn't just seeing them. They were seeing him. Emily grabbed his wrist. Her small hand felt hot, almost burning. Do you understand now? You can't run from this. You saw them. That means you're marked. Michael pulled his hand free, his voice harsh. Why me? I'm no one special. I'm just a man. Emily shook her head. No, Michael Reed. You're not just a man. You're the one who made their return possible. The words hit him like knives. He remembered again the contracts, the secret projects, the experiments hidden under layers of government silence. Could his own company really have opened the door for these things? Before he could answer, the lights in his penthouse flickered. The room fell into half-darkness. Outside, the watchers moved closer, their shadows stretching across the glass. Michael's throat went dry. What do they want with you? Emily lowered her eyes. I carry the key. Inside me. Michael stared at her in shock. The key to what? The key to closing the gate, Emily whispered. And the key to opening it wider. The tension in the room was heavy, like a storm about to break. Michael paced back and forth, his mind torn between disbelief and fear. He was a man used to making deals, used to choosing what was profitable. But this choice was different. This was survival. He turned sharply toward Emily. If what you're saying is true, then they won't stop until they have you. And if I help you, they'll come for me too. Emily met his eyes. Her voice was quiet, but steady. They already are. At that moment, the penthouse window cracked. A thin black line spread across the glass, as if invisible claws had dragged against it. Michael's heart hammered. His world, once built on logic and money, had shattered. He looked at the barefoot girl sitting in his home and realized the truth. He was no longer in control of his life. And the creatures outside weren't just after her anymore. They were after him. The crack in the glass spread wider, the storm of shadows pressed closer, and Michael Reed understood one thing with chilling clarity. His nightmare was only beginning. The sound of glass cracking echoed through the penthouse. Michael Reed's chest tightened as he watched thin black lines crawl across the wide window like a spider's web. Outside, the watchers pressed closer, their faceless heads turning, their long arms dragging across the glass. Emily Carter didn't move. She sat on the couch, her glowing eyes locked on the window, her face pale but calm. They found me, she whispered. They won't stop now. Michael's instincts screamed at him to run. He was not a soldier. He was not a fighter. He was a businessman. Yet here he was, trapped in his luxury home with a barefoot girl and creatures that shouldn't even exist. The window shook violently. A loud bang rattled the room. Michael snapped out of his shock and turned to Emily. Come on, he said sharply. We're leaving. He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the elevator. But Emily pulled back. Not the elevator. They'll follow. They can smell the energy. Michael cursed under his breath. He tapped his wristwatch, activating the building's AI security system. A calm female voice answered. Mr. Reed, what is your command? Seal the penthouse, Michael ordered. Lock down all doors and windows. The system responded instantly. Heavy steel shutters slid down over the windows, blocking the watchers outside. But the cracking noise didn't stop, it grew louder. The shadows were pushing through, even against the steel. Emily tugged his sleeve. We have to move. Now. Michael hesitated, then led her down the private stairwell hidden behind a panel in the wall. The stairs spiraled deep into the building's underground tunnels, a network only Michael and a few trusted people knew about. Their footsteps echoed as they rushed down. Michael's mind raced. Every step reminded him of how far his life had fallen in just one night. From being the most powerful man in the city, to running from monsters no one else could see. Halfway down, a voice echoed in the stairwell. "Michael." He froze. Standing below them was David Cole, his business partner and closest friend. Dressed in a dark suit, David looked calm, almost too calm. "Thank God," Michael said, relief flooding his chest. "We need to get out." But Emily's grip on his arm tightened. Her voice was low, filled with dread. "He's not here to help." Michael frowned. "What are you talking about?" David smiled, but his eyes were cold. "I told them you wouldn't hand her over willingly. I told them you'd run. But I also told them you wouldn't escape." Michael's stomach dropped. "Betrayal. You sold me out," he said, his voice sharp with anger. David shook his head slowly. "No, Michael. I saved you. Give the girl to them, and they'll leave you alone. You don't understand what she really is." Emily stepped forward, her eyes glowing brighter. "I know exactly what I am. And so do you." David's smile vanished. For a moment, his face twisted with fear. Then he raised his hand. From the shadows behind him, two government agents appeared, their guns raised. Michael's heart pounded. He stepped in front of Emily instinctively, shielding her. "You think I'll let you hand her over?" he growled. David's voice hardened. "You don't have a choice. She's a danger to everything. You saw the Watchers. If she stays free, they'll come through the gate completely." Michael's mind spun. David's words made sense, but something inside him refused to believe the girl was the enemy. He remembered her whisper in the storm, "They are coming, only you can see them." The agents moved closer. Michael acted on instinct. "AI activate Protocol 9. The stairwell lights went red. Hidden panels opened in the walls, releasing small drone-like machines. They swarmed, firing stun rounds at the agents. Chaos exploded. Michael grabbed Emily's hand. "Run." They raced down the stairwell, past the fight. David shouted behind them, but Michael didn't look back. At the bottom, they burst into a long underground tunnel lit by flickering lights. The air smelled of dust and oil. Emily gasped for breath. Her small body shook from exhaustion. "We can't keep running forever," she said. Michael slowed, glancing at her. "Then what do you suggest?" "We fight them." "With what?" Emily stopped suddenly. Her glowing eyes closed. For a moment, her entire body shimmered like heat rising from pavement. Then the tunnel around them bent, the lights blurred, the air shimmered, and suddenly they vanished from sight. Michael's eyes widened. He looked at his own hand and saw nothing. What did you do?" "I bent the light," Emily whispered. "They can't see us for a few seconds. But it takes too much energy." Michael realized she was shaking badly, her body weak from using her power. He caught her before she collapsed. Behind them, the sound of footsteps grew louder. Agents and something darker followed in the tunnel. Michael turned his head and froze. The Watchers. They weren't just outside anymore. They were inside. Their tall shadows stretched across the tunnel walls, reaching like claws. Emily clutched Michael's shirt, her voice barely a breath. "They've crossed over. The world will see them now." For the first time, Michael understood the weight of her words. This wasn't just about a barefoot girl. This was about humanity itself. The shadows surged forward, the tunnel shook with their presence, and Michael Reed realized he had only two choices left. Run until there was nowhere left to run, or stand and fight against something no human had ever faced before. The tunnel shook as if the city itself was groaning. Michael Reed pulled Emily close, his heart racing. The shadows stretched across the walls, growing taller, darker, sharper. The watchers were no longer hiding. They were entering the world fully. Michael had lived his whole life believing power came from money, from control, from signing the biggest deals. But here, in this underground tunnel, none of that mattered. His wealth, his companies, his reputation useless against creatures that shouldn't even exist. Emily's glowing eyes flickered weakly. Her small voice trembled. The gate, it's opening wider. Michael forced himself to focus. Where is it? Where's the gate? In the desert, she whispered. Nevada. Where they built the lab. That's where it started. That's where it must end. Michael's mind raced. Nevada. The research facility his company had funded years ago. A place he had never visited, but one his money had helped create. A place built on lies, hidden under layers of government secrets. He clenched his fists. I did this. I helped create this nightmare. From behind, heavy boots pounded against the tunnel floor. Government agents shouted commands. And mixed within their voices came an unnatural hiss, the watchers' voices, like knives scraping against glass. Michael grabbed Emily's arm. Come on. We need to move now. They sprinted through the tunnel. At the far end, a steel door led to a hidden garage. Michael's private escape route. He slammed his hand against the scanner. The door slid open, revealing a black armored SUV. They jumped inside. Michael slammed the gas pedal, tires screeching as they burst out of the hidden exit into the night streets. The city above was no longer normal. Chaos had begun. People screamed as tall shadows moved openly between buildings. Cars crashed into each other as drivers tried to flee. Street lights flickered as if the power grid itself was being drained by the creatures. The world could see them now, everyone could. Emily pressed her face against the window, her eyes wide. It's starting. Humanity will know the truth now. Michael swerved the SUV, avoiding a crashing taxi. If we don't close that gate, there won't be humanity left. Suddenly, an explosion lit up the street ahead. A helicopter roared overhead. Military soldiers rappelled down, guns firing at the shadows. Bullets ripped through the air, but the watchers didn't fall. The rounds passed through their smoky forms, slowing them but never stopping them. Michael drove faster. Sirens blared, alarms screamed, and the city became a battlefield. Emily clutched her chest, her breathing shallow. They can't kill them. Only the gate can stop them. Michael gritted his teeth. Then that's where we're going. Hours later, after escaping the burning city, they reached the desert. A vast, empty land stretched under the stars. And there, half buried in sand, stood a facility surrounded by fences and watchtowers. Michael's stomach twisted with guilt. He knew this place, even though he had never been here. His money had built its walls. His contracts had paid its guards. Now it was the only place where the world's survival could be decided. As they approached, spotlights snapped on. Alarms wailed. Dozens of armed soldiers surrounded the SUV. Step out of the vehicle, a voice shouted. Michael raised his hands, stepping out slowly. Emily followed, her bare feet touching the cold sand. A tall officer stepped forward. His uniform was spotless, his eyes hard. Michael Reed, he said. You're under arrest for treason against the United States. Michael laughed bitterly. You think I'm the problem? Look around you. Those things out there will destroy the world. The officer's jaw tightened. Hand over the girl. That's our only mission. Emily's glowing eyes met the officer's. For a moment, even he stepped back, unsettled by her stare. Michael moved in front of her, his voice sharp. She's not your weapon. She's the only chance we have to close the gate. The officer raised his hand. Soldiers aimed their rifles. The tension was unbearable. Then the ground shook. A deep rumble rolled across the desert. Everyone froze. From the horizon, massive shapes appeared. Dozens of watchers, taller than the towers, marched toward the facility. Their faceless heads glowed with white slits. Their long arms scraped the earth. Panic exploded among the soldiers. Some opened fire, their bullets useless. Others ran for cover. Michael turned to Emily, his voice urgent. What do we do? Emily's body trembled. Her glowing eyes were bright like fire. The gate is inside. I have to reach the core. But I can't do it alone. Michael grabbed her hand. Then we do it together. The soldiers around them panicked, the desert roared with the sound of approaching monsters, and Michael Reed knew one truth. This was no longer about wealth or power. This was humanity's hidden war. And the barefoot girl beside him was the only soldier who mattered. The desert shook like the earth itself was afraid. The watchers marched toward the facility, their massive shadows stretching across the sand. Their faceless heads glowed with pale white light, and every step made the ground tremble. Michael Reed stood with Emily Carter, surrounded by soldiers who no longer knew who to fight. Guns rattled, rockets launched, but nothing stopped the monsters. The bullets passed through their smoky bodies like air. The soldiers screamed in panic as towers collapsed and floodlights shattered. Emily's glowing eyes fixed on the facility. Her voice was weak but steady. The gate is inside, under the desert. If we don't close it now, the world will drown in shadows. Michael grabbed her hand. Then we finish this. They ran through the chaos, dodging collapsing fences and falling debris. The soldiers, desperate, fired at everything, but the watchers kept coming. Michael felt the weight of every step. This was his last chance to make things right. Inside the facility, alarms wailed. Red lights flashed as if the building itself knew its end was near. Michael guided Emily through the halls he had never seen but had once helped fund. He knew now, his greed had created this place, and his greed had almost destroyed the world. At last, they reached the core chamber. A massive circular room glowed with blinding blue light. In the center floated a swirling gate, a tear in reality itself. Through it, shadows writhed like a storm waiting to spill into earth. Emily staggered forward, clutching her chest. Her small frame shook as if the energy of the gate pulled at her very soul. This is it, she whispered. I can close it, but the power will kill me. Michael's throat tightened. No. There has to be another way. Emily shook her head. I was made for this. I was created to open and close it. That's why they fear me. That's why they hunt me. Tears stung Michael's eyes. He had never cried in front of anyone, not since childhood. But now, looking at this barefoot girl who carried the weight of humanity, his heart broke. No, he said firmly. You won't do this alone. He glanced at the machines surrounding the core. They were his company's design energy transfer systems, meant for experimental weapons. He understood them instantly. They could channel life force, connect two beings into one stream of power. He turned to Emily. Use me. Take my energy. Take my life if you have to. Emily's eyes widened, glowing brighter with shock. No, Michael. If you do this, you'll die. Michael smiled faintly, though pain filled his chest. I've spent my life building walls of money. None of it matters now. If my death saves the world, then finally, my life meant something. The gate roared louder. The watchers smashed through the walls, their massive forms entering the chamber. Soldiers outside screamed as shadows devoured them. Time was running out. Emily's lips trembled. Then she nodded. Together. Michael stepped into the machine. Emily placed her small hands on the console. A surge of light exploded, linking them. Michael felt his strength drain, his very soul pouring into her. Pain ripped through him, but he clenched his teeth. Emily's body glowed like a burning star. Her voice echoed, filled with power not her own. By life and death, I seal this gate. The swirling portal shook violently. The watchers shrieked, their faceless heads twisting in rage. They rushed forward, but the closer they came, the more they burned in the light pouring from Emily. Michael's vision blurred. His body weakened. He knew he was slipping away. But he kept his eyes on the girl. For the first time in his life, he wasn't thinking about profit or power. He was thinking about hope. Emily screamed, a sound of pain and strength combined. Her small body lifted off the ground, her glow blinding. The gate collapsed inward, shrinking, pulling the watchers back into the void. One by one, the shadows were dragged into nothingness, their screams fading into silence. And then boom! The gate closed. The chamber went dark. The air was silent. Emily fell to the floor, gasping, her glow fading. She turned her head weakly. Michael lay on the ground, his body still, his chest unmoving. Tears rolled down her face. She crawled to him, shaking his shoulders. Michael! Please, don't leave me. But Michael Reed, the man who once thought money was everything, had given the last of his life to save the world. Emily pressed her forehead against his chest. For a moment, she felt nothing. But then, warmth. His last words echoed in her memory, if my death saves the world, then my life meant something. She cried softly, but her tears carried both sorrow and pride. Weeks later, the world began to rebuild. The government tried to hide the truth, but too many people had seen the Watchers. Humanity knew it had faced the edge of extinction and survived. Emily Carter, no longer the barefoot poor girl, stood in front of Reed Technologies. The board of directors, shaken by the CEO's death, gave her full control. Michael had left everything to her. She stood tall, her eyes no longer just glowing with power, but with determination. This company will no longer build weapons of greed. It will protect humanity. That is Michael Reed's legacy. The world cheered her as a hero. But in her heart, she carried the memory of the man who saw what no one else did, a poor barefoot girl, glowing in the dark, carrying the fate of the world. And because he chose to believe in her, humanity lived.